In Mobile Suit Gundam, we're used to seeing the biggest weapons carried by very big robots. However, did you know that there is a Gundam superweapon powered by 20,000 psychics that could destroy Earth and everything on it? In today's video, we're going through a list of all of the most destructive and disturbing superweapons in Gundam. The first superweapon on our list is easily one of the most horrifying and can be deployed on or off a mobile suit. G3 is a number and letter combination that no one in the Universal Century wants to hear. The reason for that is this particular gas is responsible for the deaths of civilians in entire colonies, with both Zeon and the Titans using the weapon during different conflicts. This particular chemical weapon is based on real-world weaponry, such as mustard gas and other nasty things that were prominently used in World War I and World War II. As you can imagine, this gas is incredibly lethal. So lethal that if you're not wearing a sealed suit, your motor functions will cease to work and your skin will start to slough off. The first time we see this weapon used is when it's deployed at the 8 Banshee colony of Side 2, fired by Sima Garahau. She was lied to by her commanding officers that it was sleeping gas. The effects of this were witnessed by then Ensign Shiro Amada of the Federation, who watched the colony die up close and personal. It's after this that the colony would be used for another tragedy, as Zeon would then drop it onto the Earth. During the Grips War, the Titans would use this same gas at Side 1, and Camille Bidon would see the after effects during Zeta Gundam. The reason these people suffered such a brutal fate? It's simple. They dared to protest a corrupt government. After the usage of the G3 gas and the colony drop during the 1-year war, both sides would sign the Antarctic Treaty, which forbade the use of weaponry such as chemical weapons, nuclear weapons, and dropping space colonies onto the Earth. With this treaty in place, both sides had to get a little creative when it came to mass destruction. So, this began the thought process that would end up with the Federation creating the solar system. This rather unique weapon would seek to harness the power of the sun against the enemies of the Earth. The entire system is effectively a massive wall of mirrors, and if deployed correctly, could take solar energy and channel it into a beam that was absolutely devastating to anything caught in its path. This was first used during Operation Chembalo, also known as the Battle of Solomon. This massive solar beam would destroy 3/4 of the Zeon fleet deployed at that space station and open the way for the Federation to tear it apart from the inside out. Given that Zeon's leader, Giran Zabi, believed in Spacenoid supremacy, his response to this was the attitude of, anything you can do, I can do better, I can do anything better than you. It's at this point that he kicked a ton of people out of a Side 3 colony so that he could build a big solar laser beam of his own inside of it. This system would be called the Solar Ray, and he would line the inside of the colony with aluminum paneling to have a similar effect to the Federation's solar system. To commemorate the completion of this weapon, Giran decided to celebrate with patricide. He used this weapon to destroy a Federation fleet where he knew that his father would be meeting with Federation leader General Revel to discuss a ceasefire. Over in Australia, Zeon forces had another weapon up their sleeve. Astaroth was a plant-based bioweapon that had an interesting trick to it. Normally, if you would hear that someone is going to deploy a plant in Australia that would actually grow in the outback, it might be a cause for celebration. With Astaroth, this particular weapon would effectively cause plant life to grow so much that it completely takes over an entire ecosystem. Now, luckily for the people in the land of the kangaroo, this particular weapon actually never got deployed. The famous White Dingo team and their iconic Gym Sniper 2 mobile suits managed to keep Zeon from ever getting to put out such a horrifying piece of greenery. However, there is the distinct possibility that Zeon never planned to deploy it at all. Rather, Zeon ace pilot Vish Donahue may have been just using the threat of this to cause a distraction to allow Zeon mobile suits to return home to space. During the Grips War, the Titans really seemed to enjoy finding new ways to kill massive amounts of people, or just borrowing other people's ideas to kill massive amounts of people. As mentioned earlier, they really enjoyed G3 gas, and decided to steal another Zeon idea by making their own in-colony solar system called the Colony Laser. However, the difference would be that the Colony Laser would be able to fire more often, whereas the solar ray burned out pretty quickly. This particular weapon worked by channeling energy from the sun into an energy storage, which would then be backed by a reactor. When there was a need, the weapon would charge, admittedly rather slowly, but then could release a massive beam of energy to catastrophic effect. The first time we see this weapon used, it burns a hole through 2 colonies in a single shot. The great irony of the colony laser is it would end up getting turned on its masters. In the final battle of the Grips War, the colony laser would be used on the Titans, wiping out almost their entire fleet. Several years later, during Gundam Unicorn, the Federation would attempt to use this weapon again, only to be stopped at the last minute by the incredible defensive power of the Unicorn and Banshee Gundams. One of the most horrifying antagonist forces within the Gundam franchise is the Zanscare Empire. Hailing from Side 2, this fascist dictatorship ruled their territories with an iron fist and tried to invade the Earth in UC-149. It's at this point that the show Victory Gundam takes place, and the paramilitary organization known as the Ligue Militaire has to take up arms against this force. One thing worth noting about the Zanscare Empire is their tendency to use very big space weapons. One of those was known as the Kalis Guile. This large attack satellite with a rather suggestive architecture to it was meant to be one giant gun pointed at the proverbial head of the Earth. Since the Ligue Militaire wasn't really a fan of that, they decided to take action. Their strategy was simple: steal the giant death beam. Given that using your own enemy's weapons against them, like one giant Uno reverse card, can be a smart, efficient, and time-saving strategy, this station ended up being a pain in the neck for Zanscare. The hero of our story, Uso Erwin, managed to get on the base and turn the giant gun onto the Zanscare fleet. With the push of a button, this young boy slaughtered a substantial chunk of ships and soldiers and likely gave himself nightmares for the rest of his life. Even after the Kalis Guile was used against them, the Zanscare Empire had another idea for a massive superweapon. Their next devilish invention was called the Angel Halo, and the concept of this almost sounds like something out of Warhammer 40k. The Angel Halo would take 20,000 new types, or as they called them, Psychikers, and enthrall them to one single controlling new type. That controlling psychic force could then use what was called Psycho Waves offensively against whatever target that they wanted to. The effect was horrifying. It would devolve the human mind, causing whoever was hit with these waves to effectively lull themselves into an infantile mental state. Once this happened, the fortress and its effects would cause rapid cellular degeneration, premature aging, and even death. This particular weapon could have been used to kill every single person on Earth, alongside just about anything else. Thanks to the bravery of the Ligue Militaire and Uso Erwin, this monstrous machine was stopped before it could be used for such a hideous purpose. Though it's not often mentioned, life on other planets has been confirmed within the Universal Century. It's just not the kind of life you want to run into. In the manga known as Crossbone Ghost, an old Crossbone Vanguard ship is found with an alien bacteria on it. This particular bacteria managed to kill every single person on board, and to the Zanscare Empire, it was a wonderful opportunity to have their own biological weaponry. Their initial plan was actually to use it as part of the Angel Halo concept, but they ended up not doing that, as if you could actually make the Angel Halo worse. Now, since this particular bacteria, known as the Angel Call, is an alien life form, it carries a specific problem with it. Whenever it infects something, there is no cure. Once it does infect something, you find out that this bacteria is very, very hungry. After it gets inside of you, the bacteria eats at you until it liquefies you, giving you quite possibly one of the most horrifying deaths that you could experience within Mobile Suit Gundam. Not to be outdone by the Universal Century, the After Colony timeline has their own superweapons that can best be described as giant space death laser. Both of these particular military bases were made with the express purpose of allowing Oz to keep their dominion over space. However, not everything went out as they planned. The first of these stations is known in Japan as Bulge, or here in the West as Barge. At 8 kilometers in length, Bulge was the same size as a normal space colony. In fact, it was so big that it had a gravity block, and its its own agricultural plant, so the soldiers deployed there could live underneath normal gravity and even have their own food made right there on the station. When Oz had the idea to weaponize each of the colonies during the conflict in Gundam Wing, this might have been the blueprint that they were thinking of for how things should turn out when each colony got armed. The other major space station with its own death laser was Libra, though technically it was classified as a battleship. This massive machine was developed by the 5 scientists who created the Gundams and looked like a collection of diamonds. In the center of the machine is its massive cannon, which is capable of causing massive explosions on whatever it hits, including the Earth itself. It also contained a control room to guide the mobile dolls that would be deployed from the station by the colony rebel group who stole it from Oz, known as White Fang. During the course of Gundam Wing, each space station would end up being destroyed during a conflict known as the Eve Wars. For Bulge, the Gundam Epion was the source of its demise. It would cut a massive swath into the side of the cannon on Bulge, causing a massive explosion that would destroy the entire facility. As for Libra, the Gundam pilots would bring it down piece by piece, with the final shot being a coup de grace blast fired by none other than Wing Zero. Though we commonly use microwaves to reheat our food, it should never be forgotten that microwave radiation can actually kill a human being. The Earth Alliance and Gundam Seed were very much aware of this fact, and created another one of the most horrifying weapons in the entire franchise, and it was known as the Cyclops system. During the conflict between the Earth and the Zaft forces, a battle would end up happening at a spot called the Endymion Crater. Initially, the Cyclops system was actually meant for mining resources in Arctic areas. Makes sense, since if you want to melt a bunch of ice, this might be the best way to do it. The thing about microwaves is that you can figure out what happens when this particular system is used on people by simply putting a hot dog or a hot pocket into the microwave for too long. They're going to explode. The weapon would be unleashed on the Zaft forces, and the pilots hit by this attack would pop like balloons inside their flight suits, making one of the most glorious messes in all of Gundam. Ever wonder what it would be like to break apart on a molecular level? Me neither, but it seems like Gundam Seed didn't have much of an issue with featuring a weapon that does exactly that. The Positron blaster cannon was a weapon in Gundam Seed and Seed Destiny that would see use in several different theaters of war. Despite the horrifying nature of these particular weapons, they were actually fairly commonplace given the rapid escalation of the wars between Earth and Zaft. One of these cannons was famously featured in Seed Destiny as a substantial emplacement, showing that this absurdly powerful weaponry was being placed in spots where normally you would just see standard artillery. I think it's safe to say that being able to rip someone apart molecule by molecule is a bit much compared to ballistic shelling. Then again, maybe the dead don't care. What made it worse is that these particular cannons would be put on ships. The Minerva, which was the main ship that the protagonists of Gundam Seed Destiny traveled in, actually had one of these. As time went on, these weapons would consistently be used to inflict mass casualties, seeing the body flick of these conflicts continue to rise and rise and rise. Giant death lasers seem to be a beloved flavor within Mobile Suit Gundam, and Gundam 00 is more than happy to add their own to our particular list. Just like its namesake, the Memento Mori is a laser strafing device that is a constant reminder that an entire capital city of a nation could be wiped off the map any time that whoever wields this weapon decides to use it. Used by Gundam 00's Titan's parallel known as the Outlaws, the Memento Mori's designs were sent to the Federation by antagonist Ribbon's Allmark. If you asked Ribbons why he would do such a thing, he would simply say that it was to encourage planetary unification. The gimmick is that this particular weapon was effectively telling you, unify or we're going to liquefy you. Luckily for the people of the Earth, there was a weakness within the design, specifically its electromagnetic resonator. It worked as a sort of regulator system for the weapon, and if it was destroyed, it would cause a chain reaction, which would destroy the weapon. As such, Celestial Being jumps into action, and after a grueling fight, they managed to destroy the Memento Mori so that the constant threat of murder from the skies would no longer be a problem. And that sums it up for our list of non-Mobile Suit super weapons within Mobile Suit Gundam. However, don't you worry, because we are going to do a list of those that we do deploy on Mobile Suits. But until next time, if you enjoyed this video, do not forget to like and subscribe for more Gundam content.